with people who are doing awesome.
Oh, is this a podcast?
No, it's
like a live stream thing. So every Wednesday at noon Pacific Standard Time, I'm trying to just rally a bunch of cool people.
Hey, Daniel.
There's Daniel. Hey, Daniel. So we're live now, just so you guys know too. So
okay.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a.
No,
you want me to hide? This is our mom and pop shop.
Oh hey.
Yeah. There's
Ahoy.
Hello.
Where's your
Hey,
real?
everybody.
Huh?
Steven, you're looking very cartoony today.
Yeah, I haven't set my
Steven
camera on. I
never
was
did
going to
your
eat some lunch. Amy, hi.
Hi.
This is Steven.
I know.
Okay.
Well, or do I? Because all I see is Anthony.
Yeah. I'm a little camera shy, but also I'm going to be eating some lunch now, so I might mute myself to keep from crunching too much.
Well, I just grabbed lunch too, so maybe we should all just eat lunch together.
Oh.
I ate lunch.
This is the
3 hours
cartoonist
ago.
lunch feed.
Hey, actually, it's
Watch cartoonist
I
eat.
just had dinner. That wouldn't be a good idea.
It's taco. They're serving taco salad locally here. It's pretty okay.
Nice.
Good. So maybe we'll get that. But,
Okay.
What's up, guys?
and you guys can draw. I'm not going to draw anything
Hey,
today.
Josh.
Okay.
I can never draw on the stream because my office area, my art office area is down in our kitchen, and there's just kids running around all the time.
Oh,
So,
you know what that's like.
yeah.
Is there like special equipment when you draw? You know what I mean? Like, I just realized I'm wearing this like arthritic glove. I don't have arthritis, but apparently it prevents it if you wear it. So I have this, and I have like a tennis elbow strap that you wear for weightlifting. To prevent,
I have a like carpal tunnel wrist brace that I usually wear if I'm doing like intensive inking or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't have carpal tunnel either, but it helps not make my wrist hurt.
Yeah, same here. I feel a bit like I'm in a sports team. Mental sports. Oh my
Getting
god,
strapped in for battle.
that's right.
Esports.
I remember like at the end of Adamsville 2, I was having to crank out like 2 or 3 pages of inks a day, and my wrist was killing me.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
finally had to buy one, and I was just like, all right. And that helped a lot, but it took some while getting used to. But now drawing on the Cintiq without it feels weird.
Yeah. I can't ink on a Cintiq. It gives me a headache.
I don't know. I'm so used to it now, I can't ink on paper.
Yeah.
So it's a lot different.
Actually, recently I read an article that that questioned the belief that the Cintiq would be an ergonomic drawing device. There were some arguments that the graphic tablet that is lying in front of you on the desk is much less stress to your shoulder joint than the Cintiq thing, because with the Cintiq posture you have to you stretch out your arm forward so that your upper arm is not pointing down, which would be the most stress-less position for the upper arm, you know. And so I think it's worth keeping an eye on that, because if you lose your ability to draw, you're in big trouble when your job is drawing.
You know, I couldn't draw for like a month after Amulet 7. I've never had an injury like that doing these books, and that was like a big wake-up call for me. I had a real bad pain under my scapula right here, right underneath. By the end of the book, it was just burning, and I could barely draw. So what I've done is I've started making sure that I don't do any one stage of production for too long.
Yeah.
Because I know that if I do just the pencils for a little bit and then switch over to inks, my arm is actually, even though I'm still drawing, I'm actually using different muscles for some reason. Like there's more tension when I ink.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I limit it to 4 pages now at a time. I just do I'll do 4 pages of pencils, and then I'll make sure to ink them. And by the time I'm done with those 4 pages of inks, I'm kind of burnt out on inking. And then I could just go back to thumbnails for a little bit and reading stuff and watching things. And then I go back into pencils again, where I do like maybe 8 to 10 iterations of a scene. And then I'll once I'm set to go on something, scan that in, kind of assemble it the way I want for the final, and then print that out and ink it. And then I'm usually just listening to a podcast or some music when I do that. But yeah, inking is like the most physically harsh part of the production, I think.
I'd agree with that.
My wrist tends to clamp up the most.
Well, I quit using ink too. That's another thing, because I don't like using. I used to be a Crowquill guy, so I used to use a dip pen, and it would take forever for one. But my hand would hurt because usually the pen staffs are really bad as well. Like, you know, the little brown guys, you ever use those? The Crowquill, like 1 or 2, like they're not made to be held for more than like minutes, you know. It starts to hurt. I used to like put tape around.
Yeah, put the people grips on them and stuff.
Yeah, but ever since I started working on Amulet, I switched over to pencil because it looked. Well, I actually did it based on the whole Ubi iWorks xerography process that they used back when they did 101 Dalmatians and Robin Hood at Disney. You guys know about that?
Not familiar with what
So
Disney did.
yeah, Ubi iWorks is like Disney's right-hand man. It was like at the very beginning. He was kind of the tech guy plus first animator at Disney Animation. And he introduced this idea of using Xerox copies of penciled artwork instead of the inks. So they would actually Xerox onto cells the pencils rather than like do the pen and ink, the traditional pen and ink, to save time. But also they thought, oh well, they like the rough look of it, you know. So that's why everything looks a bit hairy.
Interesting.
Remember that? Like everything looks like it's like coming apart a little bit, but it you know, and the idea was that it would look livelier. The thing is, I feel like when you're doing those on 2s or 1s, like if you're doing 12 to 24 frames per second, and you have all of those imperfections, it's like it's almost too much movement. Like, you know, when you have solid, stable inked lines running at 12 to 24 frames per second, it looks fluid. It looks like the thing is moving. But if you see 12 to 24 sketchy drawings together, it looks like the drawing is like just like fraying and you know, moving around. I remember thinking, well, I don't think that works that well for animation. But I thought maybe it would work well if we were putting it in still frames in a comic book, and so that's why I decided to use pencil. If I could preserve the action, I was noticing that my action was getting really like, you know, everything looked like a toy. So like when I drew Copper, that worked out fine because it's like a bunch of toys coming to life, you know. But when I was making Amulet, I wanted it to look like everything was in progress, everything's in motion. And so I inked the first page of the first sequence of Amulet with inks with a Crowquill, and it kind of killed the scene. And I went back and I ended up just using a penciled version of it instead.
You know, it's funny because I haven't like seen Amulet really that closely. Like I try to keep, because his work separate from mine. Like I don't try to butt in too much, but he needed some help at the end. So I started coloring some pages. But I was like, it was bothering me. Like all the eyes look different from panel to panel, and all the faces look different from panel to panel. And I want to keep it like on model, you know, that's like kind of the way I do it as best as I can anyway. But then like when I step back and read the page, like as a reading process, it all makes sense. And it gives it a sense of like, it's almost moving around, like it's almost animated, even though from panel to panel, like there are kind of a lot of inconsistencies. And I was trying to adjust the page, and because it was like, no, don't adjust it. You know, that's like a part of the style. Like,
Right.
Yeah. So I think I learned something from that, like just not to get too obsessed over one panel because it's about the reading experience, not about the single image.
It's not about all of Kazu's mistakes.
Mistakes, though,
No,
that's
they're not the mistakes. It's really.
I know.
Like that.
it's kind of annoying. I was like, this is a mistake. He's like, no, it's not.
Well, I think it
Yeah,
too.
a lot of times I actually do complete lines because well, partly because when people flat the pages, a lot of times I know people will just like paint bucket the shape, but I want people to get right in there and like make sure that there's like an actual like drawing underneath it, you know, like paint's
been touched by human hands.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell. I really do think that, you know, like you could tell the difference between somebody painting in there and somebody using a magic wand tool.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that extra effort. It actually makes the drawing feel like it'll come to life more. Yeah.
Well, with your painting style,
Hey, Doug.
with your painting style too, the more comics I've seen use pencils as the inks, the more I like it, especially with a more painterly style to the coloring. It's something I want to mess around with more. I really like the I'm going to do it digitally, but I really like the digital pencil tools in Clip Studio. They mimic I found some brushes that look real, like they look like a real pencil is being used. But you get to have all the advantages of all the tools and stuff they have in there. But yeah, I've always liked that style. Like I know Tony Cliff does that too, right? Uses that. I know Amy's been doing that with her book, right?
Yeah, but mine still looks like inks, I think, because that's how I was taught at SVA. Yeah.
However, I do think if you're using a brush, you should stay with that.
Yeah.
I think that might be even better. That requires some real technical skill. I mean, and it also it does sort of change the there's like a flowy feel to everything.
I'm not good enough with a brush.
With Amulet, but like Doug uses a brush. That's what
So
I'm tormented. Look at this tormented Kickstarter freaking brush.
Just keep it simple, Doug, right?
Look at these freaking watercolors I gotta do. It's like a living hell. I'm like my Okay.
Well,
the only way I can get through the day is like, look at this. I'm turning into like a wild turkey drunkard.
don't use your coffee mug for your paintbrush water. I was like,
yeah, you drinking, Doug?
Yeah, I need to be drinking more. It's watercolor paint, so it won't kill me fast enough.
just stay hydrated, I guess.
It doesn't actually get bad to me. Okay, I'm doing. This is what I'm going to be watercolor.
Oh man, that's awesome though.
About 800 of these.
Cool.
Oh shit. Sorry. Okay. So I wanted to come on this show like with at least 3 drinks in me to make it more interesting. So I'm nearly Doug the drunk. I know better than to get truly drunk because then I really would just you guys would all unfriend me. So I'm just only got two drinks in me, but they're hard drinks. So
nice.
It's how I'm getting through my day. This is like, you know what? The first 200 Kickstarter watercolors were really cute, and after that, it became like in my mind like stabbing people, stabbing donors. Kind of,
what if your donors are watching? They're going to be like, oh no.
Yeah, they're going to watch it. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'll admit to them to their faces that it's like stabbing. But I still have I still have a job to do. Like, I'm still super loyal to my donors. Like, I have to do this. So I love them. I love them.
Everyone knows Kickstarter is just a machine for people to torture their most beloved creators. So
Yeah.
that's exactly, you're doing exactly right.
I assume all of my donors are they secretly hate me because they're getting me to just like paint like 600 of the same thing. Did anyone here get into watercolors and creativity and art to do 600 of the same thing?
Well, comics are kind of that, right? Where you just keep drawing the same faces
true.
over and over and
Yeah,
over.
it's true. It's true.
To be honest, Doug, it would kill me to just sign 600 books. I can't even imagine what it means to make 600 watercolor drawings.
Yeah,
man.
So here's what's so funny. Okay, this is what's so freaking and ironic about it. Is like every donor they give, like $50 to get a little earthworm gem of their own or some character of their own, right? And if I change the expression on any one of these too much, it won't look like the character, right? It'll go like off model. So if I do anything creative or any kind of variety with these guys, my donor will get mad. But every donor wants a unique piece of art. So they want a unique piece of art, but it can't be too unique, right?
Right.
So it's like I end up just copying like the same thing like 8 million times. These are all the same. Look at them all. I mean, they have different backgrounds and stuff. But it's like, as soon as I have his tongue, as soon as I have him like stick his tongue out, the donor's going to be like, I didn't pay to have his tongue stuck out. Can you just have him in the neutral position? Do you mind? Okay. I'm done ranting. That's my giant half. Okay, on that too. We have to look at my pet siren. This is an amphibian with only 2 front legs. And he's deformed and mutated like me. See, he has one long eel tail, but on the front, they only have 2 front legs and little like mud puppy ears. That's called a siren.
Oh, kind of reminds me of your Newt's comic.
Yeah. I'm a big amphibian. Okay, that's it. That's all I'm going to say.
So to answer Amy's question earlier about using prosthetics and aid devices, Doug just uses lots and lots of alcohol.
Yeah.
That lessens the pain a little bit.
It's only because the coffee just made me vibrate apart. Put me back together again.
Hey, does everybody know each other here? Does everyone know Daniel? Kazu?
I know Daniel's work.
Okay. Well, Daniel Lieske, Kazu Kibuishi.
Yeah. Actually, we were in contact a few years ago. I asked Kazu if he would link to my page on his Bold City website, and he did. It was awesome. So
yeah, of course.
So
that's right. It's still on there.
Again. Yeah, I know it's still on there. I know it's super cool. I love it.
We just never met.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, this is the best place to meet. I mean, this is awesome. I mean, look at the crowd of people here in the hangout. This is super exciting, I think.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I was buying an AR-15 off a guy on Craigslist.
What is happening?
Oh my God!
I come to my house and I go, "Is that Kazu? Kazu?" He's all, yeah. He's like, I needed to make some quick scraps dumping this. So I had to dump this thing real
Doug, just remember, drinks and guns, they don't go well together.
I'm definitely not going to the shooting range in my current condition.
I'm fine. Let me do it.
I don't think I can kill anybody doing watercolors. So.
I dropped
only
off for
yourself, Doug. Only yourself.
I dropped off for a sec. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you can. Yeah, you were muted for a while there.
Your mic was making a lot of
noise. Oh my God! You have transformed from a cartoon to a real human.
On the inking discussion, I was actually looking at Doug's sketchbooks earlier, and he has in the second one, Doug, you have a bunch of your inked pages from Pix and Bragg, and stuff. And I was just sitting admiring, and I'm like, I am not good at inking like this. I am not good with the brush.
Oh, Michael, I'll tell you one thing. I look at those Hicks and Bragg pages, and I couldn't do those today. Like, I'm even looking at them going, whoever did this is kind of good. Oh, wait. It's like I feel like I suck so bad now. I really was just trying to floor it. I was looking at a ton of Peter Allieri's work. You know, the guy out of France.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He did Sinbad and all that. He's just fantastic. And I was really copying him and doing a lot of his, just trying to learn to draw the way kind of his tastes were. And it really started sinking in. And then I sat down to do Hicks and Bragg, and it became like, I did 100 pages of that book, probably 100 pages of the best comics of my life. And then I just realized, I don't think I can finish a book because it's going to be too hard where this book is going. It's the only one that I ever abandoned. And now I'm so out of touch with where I was at then, I could never finish it unless I got back in. Just tried aping Peter Allieri again.
I was wondering why I'd never heard of that book.
Yeah. I remember you showing pages of it. It looked good. Although I do want to correct you.
That book was too big of a man. That book was a bigger man than I am. So.
We don't look at Pierre Alleri's work. We weep over Pierre Alleri's work. we cry ourselves to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Wonder.
Yeah. I'm putting the rope over the rafters, and my wife is like trying to talk me down. Are you looking at Peter Allieri's work again? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my San Diego experiences, was finding his work at a used bookstore, like at San Diego, and like gawking over it, and then looking across the aisle, and he's over there drawing and signing.
Yeah,
that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Steven?
I was about to tell the same story.
Oh.
Yeah. Josh and I we decided to do this pilgrimage across San Diego Con. We were just visiting. And so we wanted to walk every aisle from end to end. And we thought we were going to die by the end, but we found the French comic book booth. And then we just stayed there for hours. We were like, what? Every single book was just so jaw-dropping.
Oh, would that be Stuart Ang? Is that what you mean by the French comic book booth? Stuart Ang,
yep.
In there, they really, that's a place to depress all American comic artists. So I'm ready to quit when I leave there. After I spend my $300.
Right.
This is it. Then I'm jumping off a cliff.
I was looking there a couple months ago at Corey Loftus's books.
Yeah.
He's got some good sketchbooks on there.
I love Corey. He did had a recent one, the Pigeon sketchbook. What was it called?
I'm not sure.
It's like called Pigeon something. Corey Loftus. It's fantastic. One of his little obscure Stuart Ang sketchbooks. Really good. Yeah, I
might have to pick some up.
And I love his work. Love his work.
I've been doing a lot of copies of his work actually in my sketchbook.
Yeah,
trying to get a better feel for how he uses gesture and stuff like that. It's starting to come through a little bit.
Yeah, that's something I do to really change my style and grow and learn. I just flat out copy guys that are a million times better than me, and after a while, their kind of gesture and some of the cool things they do really does start to sink in.
Mm-hmm. I hope so, anyway, right?
Oh.
I gotta start practicing again. I don't practice at all. I don't. I don't enough. Every time I will not get near the drawing table.
Yeah,
I just can't do it. So I gotta start doing that again.
So Kazu, you don't carry a sketchbook and just doodle in it, or to
I have
find your brain?
You know, I do carry. I have a sketch wallet. One of those. I do carry a moleskin every now and then, just for story notes.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I'm just using my phone. I'm just typing in notes to myself. Like I just have grocery lists and amulet story notes.
Yeah.
Like they go back and forth. And I just jot them down so I'll remember them for later. And then, I sometimes look at those, and while I'm washing dishes or cleaning the house after the kids have turned it upside down, I'm just thinking about the story. I'm just running the story over in my head over and over again.
Yeah.
And so when I sit down to draw, I try not to spend too much time warming up.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, I'm all ready to go. I already thought about everything. It's all kind of there. I sit down when I draw. It usually, comes together really quick. And then I try to get out of there as soon as possible too, and just go play basketball or something.
That was
you
one
once
of my
showed me
biggest.
your.
I feel like my biggest revelations recently.
Sorry, Steven, you're breaking up.
Hello. Oh,
yeah,
that's cool. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
For webtoons with the weekly deadline, half of my week is just a wonderful drawing, and then the other half is like a hellish trying to put together some thumbnails for the next week's episode.
Yeah.
And my recent revelation has been that the more time, if I go on a walk and just do 2 laps around the block, but just thinking about only the story, thumbnails come out so much easier because a lot of editing can be done in my head. So I would definitely recommend it. Just don't even put pen to paper until you have worked out. You just thought about all the what every character wants in that scene, why they're there, how things would interact, and what the environment's like and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of story math to be done before you even start thumbnailing, I think.
I was going to tell Kazu that when you talked about his moleskin, it reminds me of I had looked at one of your moleskins. You showed it to me. This is back in I don't know, mid to late 2000s, and I was so impressed with it. I loved your little drawings and how finished they were. But I said, I'm going to go buy a moleskin, and I went out and bought one, and I started filling it with drawings. It was right around 2009, I think. And I put the first images down that ended up becoming Ghostopolis because of that.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that cool?
Nice.
That is cool.
It was very much, it was something about the way you drew in your moleskin that I wanted to copy it. It was like, he does finished drawings of a lot of detail and a lot of cute little worlds. And then I went home and started drawing the same thing, and Ghostopolis came out. You're one of the many inspirations for that. So
okay, well,
I never told you that story, but yeah, you were in there.
Well, I owe you a lot for Creature Tech, I think.
Yeah.
Because if I hadn't read that, I don't know if I would be doing this.
Yeah, it's a good book.
We're all just doing our thing, inspiring other people to go down this same
crazy
path. I was reading Creature Tech again recently. It's so good. What's
we're
going on?
We're gonna republish it. I've been talking to Image about it. I really want to update some of the material in there. Just some of the dialogue is a little dated and stuff. So we're re-releasing all of my Image stuff. I think it's one book every 6 months to a year. So we're going to start with gear, and then I might do it in color. And but I think we're going to re-offer Creature Tech at the end of the year.
Okay, great. New cover and everything.
Yeah, new cover. That came out in 2002, I think. So it's almost a 20-year edition. It's getting close to a 20-year.
Oh wow,
that's crazy.
And that's when they just you fart
career right
out. I farted out, and it just ends up finding an audience. Some of them do better than others, but Creature Tech is one that really consistently finds a much broader audience than what I was writing it for. I was just kind of writing it. I guess I was probably writing it just for me. I mean,
Kazu, I had no idea you were so inspired by Creature Tech. It makes me feel it's so surreal, this whole chat, because I think a lot of us were inspired by each other to get into comics. In this chat right now, it's what?
It's proof we all steal from so many different sources. That if you brought Mike Mignola into this podcast, everyone would be like, oh man,
right.
Everybody shut up. We gotta have a conversation.
Oh, Jason, could you please bring Mike Mignola to the hangout? That would really be great.
Did you guys? So for me, I was always into comics, and I would like go to the library and like read all the old stuff, like Dick Tracy and just any comics I could get my hand on. And then when the internet came along, everything kind of opened up, and I found like the flight forums and all that stuff. Was it a similar thing for you guys, where you're like, whoa, there's like people out there who like comics like I do? Because until the internet like really started pushing, came out, I guess, but bringing people online, it was like a kind of a solitary experience.
Yeah. It's more before the internet for me, Stephen. It was more that I didn't know how to pull this off. I'm like going, there's no way this business is going to, I looked at all the indie guys that were coming out of Dark Horse in the late 80s, early 90s. I'm going, there's no way this is going to work. And as soon as the internet happened, people like me could talk to other people like me, like indie guys, and guys like Jeff Smith suddenly just arrive on the scene, and you're going like, oh man, this guy's doing it. And the guy that inspired Jeff Smith, who's the Aardvark guy, Dave Sim.
Pogo?
Dave Sim.
Dave Sim,
no,
and you're just going like you're going like, this guy's doing it independently. Like, I thought I had to draw Superman for reals before I could pull this off. And Ninja Turtles come out, and it's basically really crude art. And Scud and Milk and Cheese Man by Evan Dorkin.
Yeah.
Like, all those guys started, they're really the guys that are opening the doors, and Spiegelman's Mouse, they're opening doors to guys saying, you don't have to draw Marvel style high-end Spider-Man to do this. That was what, and I learned about it mostly right around the time the internet started coming around, was what got me kind of into this whole thing, going, I can do this and I don't have to draw perfect. And that's all I needed was an excuse.
Yeah,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I hung out with a lot of students at Art Center, and they were on concept art forums. There wasn't that much in the way of comics at the time.
Yeah.
So I was hanging around the people who were, hanging out at the Sijin forums. You remember those? You remember the Sijin forums?
The Sijin forums.
Yeah. Oh, and Daniel, you know this. Yeah, you know this crowd.
I just want to start to tell that I was totally disconnected from comics for several years because I went on that digital art route, where you would go to the forums, where you would draw robots and Jedis and whatsoever. And this had absolutely nothing to do with comics. I personally had to rediscover comics around 2009, 2010 when I started my own comic project. But up to that point, it was mostly only digital painting.
Yeah. So what was the illustrator, Daniel? What was the illustrator?
No, I was working in the computer games industry as a concept artist, game artist in general. And that was my horizon back then, the painting on the computer.
Daniel, were you on the drawing board as well? Because so I saw all the concept art stuff. It was actually my friend Kang Lee who introduced me to that, and I was I think at the time I was working in architecture still. I wasn't in entertainment at all, and I wasn't an architect. I was just a guy who was doing copies and stuff like that, and eventually doing graphic design work. He showed me those concept art forums, and then I realized that the cartoonists were doing the same thing over at the drawing board, drawingboard.org, the chain lines.
Oh yeah, I love chain lines.
Yeah.
I only remember the Sijin forum and later the conceptart.org forums. And I actually started my own forum in Germany in German language, so that also was on my radar, of course. But that was a very local thing. But I really enjoyed it because we were all from Germany. We were able to meet pretty often, and we had a convention every year and stuff like that. So that is something that I couldn't have with the international thing because it was way before, like concept art, for example, started to make these meetings, these massive black conventions, and now you have all these digital art conventions like Trojan horse was a unicorn, and the meetups from all the other communities. So this was something special for our German community back then.
I was on mute the whole time, guys. I was trying to talk to you guys, and no one was answering.
You've had that for a while.
That is the greatest podcast moment ever.
I was like, fine, I won't do it anymore.
We don't like you.
I was yelling.
Brought you guys
I
together.
was yelling. And no one would respond to me.
Well, I only tried talking a couple times. It wasn't too bad. I won't say too bad.
I heard a voice. I heard like a really small voice far away going, guys. Hey guys.
Yeah.
The sound of one's heart breaking.
Ostracized from his own
Forums
stream.
at all now? You guys still go to forums?
I don't know of one that still exists.
And
Yeah, I
don't happen too much anymore.
I wish they did, because Twitter
Yeah.
is
I'm on
wasteland.
oldman.com. The forum's called Old Has Been. Last year.
sounds like a terrible.
You
forum.
know what? That is actually a
Tried to
pretty.
starting.
Sorry. I just fetched up this question. If we miss the forums, right?
Mhm.
For me, that was a very big question, because I had my own forum running, and I was kind of the I felt like being the heartbeat of that forum. I knew that when I was posting less, people also started posting less. It was really a big burden on me. But at some point, when I started my comic project, and it was a project that went along my job back then, so it ate up all my time, and the first kid was coming in too. So, and I just had to realize that I just have no time left for forums. But I really miss the depth of the communication you can have in an online forum. This is completely lost for me. Although I have to say that it kind of comes back in situations like this one with the hangout and stuff like that, because that's, you don't have to type, you can take advantage of the fact that you can speak to people. And of course, it's a very different form of communication, because I remember sitting there evenings and writing on a huge forum post for like hours. And that's just not possible anymore today. But I miss it.
Facebook kind of killed our forum the same way that Amazon killed the local bookstore, kind of thing.
Yeah.
With Facebook,
social media in general.
We had a TenNapel forum that just vanished after a while. It was too much trouble, and Facebook had a broader range of friends, and I didn't have to deal with the software, but that kind of intimacy of a forum of just like, say, 60 people who are like TenNapel guys is that's gone, and now we just have private groups on Facebook.
I'm super thankful for the platform there.
And I just took a look and looked at the old threads. It was really interesting. Everyone's grown up quite a bit since then.
Yeah, the flight forum was the first forum I ever went into, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, it was getting to be almost a full-time job, so I had to, it was just like, am I gonna zap bots all day?
Yeah.
And with all the forum drop, or I just thought, well, I think it would be better to just get more books out there. And that was kind of the decision I had to make on anthologies as well. I was taking up so much of my time, and that was essentially volunteer work to do anthologies. And so and I also have 2 kids. So there were just so many things that I had to take a look and see what I should focus on, and I refocused it on Amulet. But since then, now everything's Twitter, right? For me, I feel like I do have a forum to speak in, and I'm speaking more to readers than I am with other artists now. Or in my case, a lot of teachers and librarians and booksellers who talk to the readers, because a lot of my readers aren't young enough to be on social media. or
Right.
they're too young. They're too young for that. So yeah, I think it's interesting how things have shifted, but I think everyone's moving in similar directions. Just watching Jake do Inktober and all that stuff, I can see that he's modified his approach as well.
Well, it was fun being on part of the old flight forum. It's how I met Steven, I think. I think we met in email. But it's definitely how I met Josh, which is like one of the weirdest experiences ever. Was on the flight forums. I posted like the first few pages of my very first webcomic, and he was the first person to respond. And then I looked and I was like, holy crap, he's in Jacksonville. So it's like, we want to get together and hang out. And we've been hanging out ever since. That was 10 plus years ago.
I just got to say, I'm happy that Steven and I are friends because I started this thing called Making Comics, and I like deleted one of Steven's posts, and then we got mad at each other, and now we're buddies, and it's like just nice that
Yeah, man, that was a rough time for us.
What in the world would Steven do to get deleted?
Oh,
I want to know.
It's more just me not knowing how to manage people. I think it was like communication error. Yeah.
But he was doing the Making Comics blog.
That's funny.
Steve like posting himself in his underwear or something? Like what is
No, he didn't do anything wrong other than.
I'm trying to think.
I just imagine Steven
or Jason, did he have the wrong opinion on Golden Girls? All right. Estelle Getty. All right, that's it. You're out.
That was a pretty good indicator that I need to give up on the whole makingcomics.com thing. Because I realized I needed to bring a lot of people in to do stuff, so it's not just me doing all these articles and stuff. But then I just felt like I couldn't be this manager and moderator of opinions, and I just kind of got myself into too much trouble. At least it felt that way to me, to where I couldn't sleep at night because I was like, oh, this person's mad at me now. No, this person thinks I'm gonna blah blah blah. And so anyway, I was going through a bunch of other stuff too. So,
well, Jason, let's just put that an end right here on Virtual Studio Wednesday. It's all forgiven, and I'm super happy to be your friend too.
It's the big falling out. It's like between Peter and Paul. Separation of the.
He said I thought color comics were garbage, and I said color comics are great, and we're not friends anymore.
Two of them.
You guys use Slack? You guys use Slack?
I've tried it.
Yeah.
No,
that's how we put our books together. We use Slack.
Oh.
What's Flag? I don't know what that is.
Slack? Well, Jason brought it to us. It's an app. You can go on their site too, and you can use the web version. Well, what happens is you can create these channels where you have a list of the people who are in that channel, and when you can post things like post images. You can also post messages, and you'll be notified on your phone or on on your web browser when notifications are coming in. So you have a project channel, like we have an Amulet channel for the project, and then everybody who's on it will just know what people are talking about. And so that's how we put this book together. We actually use Slack to do it. And it just so people can be at the grocery store. I'm sometimes I'll just be just picking up some bananas or something, and then I'll find out I need to do some color corrections on something, or somebody has to go on vacation or something like that, and you're gonna have cover for that, and little things like that. It was really helpful. It kind of fits. Somebody who's not sitting in front of the monitor all day long. Like if you were on a forum, you'd have to just be there all the time. We use the flight.
How's it different than Messenger? Like if someone sent you a message through Messenger and just said, "Hey, color this right now," you wouldn't get that as readily as Flag.
Well, see, the thing is, it's in a channel, so everybody sees the messages.
Oh, okay.
So you're telling everybody in the group, and then and also it helps motivate everybody if they see images finished, and you can watch as other people inspire each other, and that's how we were able to finish like books. Is we would post each other's stories, and then people would just be motivated to do their own, inspired. But as the forum stuff died out and we were putting together Explorer and nobody knew what anybody else was doing, there was just less inspiration for each other. That we just weren't as inspired. We felt like we're just doing our own thing, and then you see the final product.
You lost the community peer pressure, the community peer pressure of creatives, kind of. A forum would give.
Yeah, like when you had those forum posts where like 100-something people would reply to just keep it up at the top of the list, right? That was that was exciting. It was kind of it's like playing Street Fighter at the Pizza Hut and being able to go on a run with 1 quarter, like just all afternoon.
Yeah.
And that. So that fun interaction stuff on this production side, I think it's becoming harder and harder to find ways to keep that going.
But do you think there's a possible way to like find that motivation within yourself, or do you think it's because we're essentially performing for the consumption of others that we have to reach out and like I'm trying to figure out a way to be motivated without having to post my art all over the internet all the time, because I have this long project that's been lasting for years, and it's like to keep myself motivated. Like I wrote it as a novel, and then I posted the novel online to keep myself motivated to write the novel, and then like now it got picked up by a publisher, so I can't necessarily keep posting behind the scenes work. They're like, please don't post full pages. Like I can't do that anymore, so I'm trying to figure out how can I just be motivated? Just like, how can I find the process instead of like the feedback? You know what I mean? The feedback loop. Do you think it's possible, or is it just inevitable?
Well, we have to do that. I mean, we have to do that. So,
for like the Webtoons guys, like me and Steven, and previously Mike, and I guess it's still Jason now. At least for me, it's kind of like the pressure is from the audience because it's you're constantly providing work, and like, did they get excited about the last episode, and like what are they liking, and it kind of provides that. But yeah, it's been quite a while since I've had to work just on my own without showing anybody anything.
Well, Amy, when I was making Adamsville 1, I wasn't posting it online. I think I showed like 5 pages off, and then everything else I just did on my own. And then, but what was helpful is I would just send it to like you and Kazu and Steven and Josh, and I just had like a small group of people that I would just say like, hey, let me know what you think if you get a chance to look at it. And that was all I kind of really needed. I just wanted like other people who could give me helpful opinions to see it. But so I do kind of feel like I need somebody to look at it at some level, just to, if anything, just to validate me, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes those little deadlines, kind of, they're like imaginary deadlines just by sending it to somebody. Because I was part of a writing group of novelists, and they all did that, where they would finish like their manuscript, and then they had a set of like 5 beta readers that they would send it out to. And like 9 times out of 10, everyone would be like, yes, I can't wait to read it. But then it's like you're talking about like, sometimes 600-page manuscripts, and it's just like really long and it's in a rough stage, So a lot of times people couldn't get back to it, but just because they sent the email out, it was like, enough. And like usually you would hear back in like 6 months or so, and they're like, I finally read your manuscript.
I guess comics are easier that way.
But it was interesting hanging out with writers because they're just so different, like the way they approach things. And I'm trying to take some of what I learned during my 7-year sabbatical into writing to like improve my comics work and my attitude towards comics and production and stuff.
Amy, I have a Facebook channel, and I do Facebook Live and you can select however many fans as you want in that, and it's no more than like 4 or 5 people show up on me. But I find when I'm drawing comic pages in front of them, I'm performing a lot better. I'm trying to draw better, kind of to show off deep down inside. And it's only for 4 to 6 people, right? So I'm getting more out of it than they are.
Like Doug, right now, do you feel a little more motivated with those Patreon those Patreon
it really works. It
yeah.
keeps me from being lonely. I have someone to talk to. Every once in a while, they'll ask a question. Mostly, they just go away, and it keeps me focused on my work. So it's more about what I'm getting out of it than what they are. I'm just saying, it really worked on me on my last book. I did just daily giant live podcasts. Some of them were 4 hours long.
I don't know if this is motivating Amy, but I am so excited for Rima to come out because I've been following that forever.
I feel so bad, Stephen. You've been there since like the webcomic days. You're like 20 years later, finally I get to see what happens.
I'm so excited because I know that it's like it's the one thing. It's the story you've thought about for 15 years or whatever.
No pressure. No pressure.
No pressure. I mean, it's funny because you guys were talking earlier about like stewarding books and stuff for a bit, and I was kind of quiet because, I mean, I can't really relate to that too much. Like when I look at those books, I think they're beautiful works of art. Obviously, they're amazing, but it doesn't inspire me like at all.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I'm not inspired by drawings really. It's a weird thing, which kind of confused me as a cartoonist because I felt like I was supposed to be getting excited about these things. But
I'm hardly ever inspired by the story. I mean,
yeah, expression inspires me. Like someone digging deep and like telling some sort of kernel of truth about themselves really excites me. But a lot of times I think the art like eclipses the story or the meaning, the motivation or that is the motivation, the art, you know? So I can understand it on a technical level, but the things that really inspire me are just like meeting people on the street that have interesting life stories or hearing stories from my mom about surviving in post-war South Korea. Like these are the things that really make me want to get to my book. And, so I feel like something I learned while I was writing was to how do I kind of turn that on and off more easily so that I can just get to work as soon as I get here. Because I have maybe like 2 to 4 hours to work every day because I got to pick up the kids and everything, and I want to make sure because it has plenty of time to work on Amulet because there's so much more demand for that, you know. And like I just kind of do my work in the cracks, so I got to get really good at like turning it on and off, you know, like especially when I work at home and the kids are asking for meals and things like that. So I don't know, like I have a different priority of skill sets that I need to draw from in order to actually do anything, to do any work. And yeah, it's just that I'm coming from a completely different place. So it's really interesting hearing your guys' perspective because I haven't really talked to artists that are really like artistic in a long time because it's just me and Kazu. You mean you're artistic, Kazu? No, I'm not saying anything.
No, I'm not. I rather play sports.
It's true.
Like,
you got to be that for the first time yesterday.
I was. We haven't done a PR thing for this yet, but I mean it'll go out. But there's going to be a special Amulet Day at the Mariners Ballpark.
Cool.
It's gonna be cool. I don't know what to expect with that, but I'll soon just be posting comments. I mean, if anybody wants, they can go get tickets now at on Mariners.com. I don't know the exact. I think it's Mariners.com/amulet or something. But I'll post it on my Twitter soon. Just want to make sure that all the people I know have get their tickets now. So, but now people know. So
yeah, they're having a big newts day at some Fresno prison. I'm just going. How can I one up this guy? That's so far beyond where my work will ever be, Kazu, already. There's a Fresno Women's Incarceration Center. Have a big...
They need newts. I'm not kidding.
Kazu, it's like you live in like a different world than me. We both make books, and you're like,
yeah. Well, so like most of my Twitter feed and the people that I end up talking to, I mean, it's changed over the course of the last 5, 6, 7 years, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm an educator now. You know? I work with educators, and it's like back when I was working in animation or working in architecture. I knew who I was working for. You know, I knew what they needed, and I wanted to provide what they're looking for. So now I just as the medium itself isn't like something I'm like trying to get into. I know that I have some mastery of it. So I know that I'm a pretty good comic artist. I'm not, you know, I'm not as good as I feel like I know I could be. Still working towards that, which is exciting actually for me, that I know I'm getting better every year. But I know that these are just tools that I can apply to helping somebody else with something. And
well, I saw you 5 years ago in the Glendale Library, and you did a lot of tutorials and stuff. I thought it was fantastic, very inspiring, and very teachy oriented. And I thought it was a unique, you know, way to do kind of what we do. I thought a unique angle.
Yeah, I mean, the kids that are reading my books are going to be way better at doing this than we are.
Yeah.
Because they'll think they'll know a world where it's accepted. You know, I mean, we all came from one where it was considered garbage.
Yeah.
Like I was treated like garbage, you know, like in school. That's where I drew all my comics into detention, and I had teachers actually lecture me and tell me like, you're better than this.
Yeah.
You should do something like important instead of your drawings. And I couldn't explain to them that I thought there was something important about it. Like I just knew that they were wrong. I just felt like I should stick with it, and so I did. I just stopped talking. You know, people thought I was a quiet guy just because I was, you know, because like that's just who I am. And I didn't talk because I would get in trouble. Because I want to draw my comics. I was like, I'll just draw comics, and you know, and that was
my business.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. I was just in the corner. I didn't need, you know, I didn't need to make, you know, like make it a big spectacle. I just wanted to draw things like Copper, you know.
Oh, that was a good one. Copper's good stuff. It is. It's pure. You know, it's pure.
Yeah, it's something I don't do for anybody else in particular. I'm really, I do that on my time when I want.
I was trying to grab Amy's attention off of what she was talking about with I'm with you 100%. And like, I'm trying to put together this behind the scenes PDF for Adamsville 3 because part of my Kickstarter stuff, and it's so difficult because like this is all like what the Adamsville 3 sketchbooks are. They're just story notes. Like,
that's perfect. That's exactly right.
Too.
Yeah. And I don't get excited to sit down and draw, and I sometimes feel guilty about it, but I'm just like, I want to just tell stories, but the only part that makes me feel guilty about it is like, I know if I get better at art, I'd tell my story. I'd do a better job of telling my stories. And that's where I'm like, there needs to be some balancing act, I think, for me of exposing myself to new influences so I can push my art and get better. But I'm with you. I'm just like, I don't spend a lot of time going, let's just take this time to dissect this artist, or I want to work on a really cool illustration. I'm like, I want to go on to the next book. Like, just next story, next idea.
I mean, just drawing is very therapeutic or can be. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I definitely don't feel the pressure.
The tricky thing is that, like, I think the tricky thing is that, like, for cartoonists, we love to tell stories, and in a lot of ways, the images are subservient to the story. But they're so vital because your story keeps your reader coming back, but the images actually sell the book. And that's kind of unfortunate sometimes because people won't even pick up a book that's not, you know, super pretty or whatever.
Well, you know, it's so funny because the novel that I proposed to Scholastic was rejected like 5 times. Right? But then as soon as they saw I was adapting it into a graphic novel, they were like, yes.
Give that to me.
Wow.
I mean, and I realized that part of it was my shortcomings as a writer. Of course, my writing was very wooden, you know. But it turned out to be a great manuscript for a graphic novel. And as I'm adapting it, it's like my way of treating the drawings has changed. Whereas before it was like I was kind of obsessed over detail. I mean, you look at my pages when it comes out, it's like too much detail for sure, because I draw the little buildings and all the little like costumes and
Oh,
all.
I love that. I love
But
that stuff.
you
I absolutely love that stuff.
it's too much, but I just get so into it, But I'm trying to take the words that I wrote and like express, okay, well, what did I really mean? And I'm trying to use the drawings as words, like, and it's funny because it's like 2 pages of comics equals 1 page of my prose. And like, it's just sort of a weird translation where I realized that my writing having all these gaps that I just couldn't find the words for because I couldn't express what it looked like in my mind was so visually strong.
Yeah.
And I realized like the word graphic novel has the word novel like right in there, you know what I mean? So it's like the story is so important and you want to be able to write like a full manuscript, but the drawings, I mean, yeah, they do matter. It doesn't have to look perfect. It's a weird balancing act. You don't want the drawings to be so distracting that it's like, that's all you look at and you kind of get stuck and you forgot what you were reading like 2 pages ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Like Amy, I just feel like I look at Hellboy. I've never read Hellboy for the story. I don't want to insult Mike Mignola, but I'm just saying the art is why I'm in. And,
yeah, it's like a soundtrack almost.
And then at the same time, Maus, I don't read Maus for the art. I read it for the story. So given those 2 brackets, it's like you can do anything in between. You can do all art, mostly art. You're in it for the art, or you're in it for the writing. I always think we should always be aiming for the writing, but I fail so much more on the writing than I do on the art side of things because the writing is much harder for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like
There was a cartoonist. I think there was some French cartoonist who said that like a comic artist should be they should be able to draw really well and a little bit bad. And I think that's true somehow.
It's like The Simpsons.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with that. I think that there's like, there's this disarming quality to a cartoon, right? Because it's not intimidating. It's like when I used to look at some of these old what was that the illustrator Alcala's work it was so detailed. It was so intense.
Yeah.
I was looking at just stuff from France, and I was so intimidated because I didn't think I could do that at all.
Yeah.
So then I didn't really get into the worlds either.
Yeah. Or like Jeff Darrow. Jeff Darrow's work always is so overdone.
I think for me, I think somewhere in my 20s, I identified this one quality that like comics images just as a piece of art need to have. And the defining quality for me within comics of the art is immediacy, which is the amount of time it takes the reader to comprehend the meaning of the image. Because my goal is to get them into the panel and out of it as soon as possible to the next panel so that they're like reading the comic and that the sequential art is kind of unfolding in their head rather than on the page.
Yeah.
So immediacy is like the real key, whereas a lot of illustrators will try to get you, like the whole intention of their art is to get you to stop and stare at it for a little while. And in a way that like hinders, for me, that hinders like the cinematic storytelling that I want to have, Simplicity is like an essential quality for the art.
Yeah. But Stephen, when you're spending 2 days on a 2-page spread, I mean, don't you want them to stop and just look at your art for a little bit? I mean, it may not be the best writing or something, but you have this amazing 2-page spread. You're like, my goal is to show you just as much detail as I can cram in 2 pages.
But I feel like that's the point of that page is to stop.
Webtoons is like, what's that?
Yeah.
I said, I think if the purpose of the page is to get the reader to stop and stare at it, then that's the time to spend the art budget on that spread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, for us, I think it's about scene setting. So, a lot of times I will set up certain panels to just be the scene setter, the one that tells you this is the space and it's really cool, and you get your imagination all fired up, by looking at it. And then every small panel that follows after that only is indicative of that bigger panel, where we're not recreating the space in every single one of them. Yeah. We're just taking like a snippet of that bigger space that we've created, so that because you've already built it, you don't have to rebuild it in every panel.
Yeah.
Right.
Jason said something. I don't
Jason
know if it
should
was
actually
in.
be here right now.
Yeah.
He'd be really good. No, he's on break right now. We just finished the book and he's fried.
Congratulations, by the way. He said something, and I don't know if it was an interview with you guys. Maybe it was the one with Jason, where he was talking about that he kind of. I don't want to completely put words in his mouth, but he was sort of like, I'm there for the second read.
Yeah.
And that he wants people to go back and discover new things, but doesn't want to get in the way of the first reading of the book. And that sticks with me a lot, because I realize, if I pick up like a comic by Jim Lee, we can discuss whatever merits on the quality of writing involved in some of those comics, but I'm mostly there because I want to stare at Jim Lee's amazing art.
Yeah.
and I don't even necessarily know what the story is about. But I pick up a lot of graphic novels because I'm there for the story. But then if the art is amazing, then I come back to it repeatedly. And so I think he does a good job with that.
It kind of breaks my heart sometimes when there's an artist who like makes just beautiful stuff, but is stuck at the pace of like a book every like 6 to 8 years or something. Like that's too slow for me. There's a lot more story out there. There's a lot more things to talk about. And sometimes they can produce amazing stuff like Craig Thompson, but often it kind of plays against them in some ways because it's just too slow,
You also don't want to hurt yourself, though. You want to make sure the pace well, and not go too fast.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I got a question from the comments in the YouTube. In the YouTube thing, it says, how does your story interact with your practical life? And this is inspired by one of Kazu's statements.
How does the story interact with practical life? I mean, it's unavoidable, isn't it? You end up writing things. When it's authentic, the emotions of a scene come from things that you've gone through in your life, right? Just like writing a poem, in high school, writing a song or something, you're usually talking about something you've gone through, and then you're writing it for somebody else who may have gone through something similar. And if it's something difficult to talk about, the cartoonier the better, right? Like the more abstract, the better sometimes, so that you can engage with these difficult topics in a way that isn't so direct. So when I make my books, I do think about things I've gone through in my life, and then I try to essentially create a poem or a song around it. And then that even goes into the images. The images become metaphors for those things. So, yeah, it's like, this is one of the reasons I haven't done any nonfiction, because I think it'd be impossible for me almost to, I feel okay. Like, it doesn't, I don't think I could, it would be like looking at the sun. I can't, if I draw my story the way, it'll just be my perception of the story, not what's occurred. So, I guess like making an autobio type of thing would be okay, as long as people know that it's just my opinion on what has happened at the stage at which I'm writing it. With my books, I do. What was interesting in this latest one is that I could see, like, I've done these books over and over again, so I kind of know where we'll be at a particular stage in the production. So I sort of write my story around where we'll be at that stage in the production, so that like the emotional state that we're in making the book is pretty similar to what the characters will be going through, and it's part of the reason why I don't write the whole book in order. I write the book in order of where we'll be in our production at that time. Does Did that answer that? I don't think I answered that. I think I just opened up a whole nother set of questions.
Were they
That was
referring to
awesome-
like?
that was some awesome free flow poetry, right?
No, I think you answered it. I mean, with my stories, it's like it's 100% rooted in what I'm feeling or going through. I mean, as you can see right now, I mean, this is obviously me. No, but it's you know, I like everything about my stories is like drawn from some situation or person or emotion or the lowest points in my life or the highest points in my life, you know, and it's just trying to visualize how to make someone else feel that that intensity, you know, or connect the dots.
Jason.
Yeah, please.
So I think I came across that question, like, cool, because there was like a build upon it where Matthew said, story can be consuming. Does it ever distract you from family, friends, responsibility? How do you do life without getting lost in plot?
Interesting.
So I wonder if he means like, does just
Practical.
Like, does this impact us in a way that?
Let me take a stab at that, because I get this question a lot, and I think in a way, from what I read of Kazu and Amy, it's a lot like the other parents, Jason and everybody. I think life happens, and life doesn't stop when you start making a book. It's like life still happens. You still got to take the kids to school. They still poop their pants. You have a wife that you have to deal with. You have to have some social time with them. You have to express your love to them. They can't just look at the side of your head all day as you work on some book. And the romanticization of arts, the idea that people can put their marriage on hold to go pursue an art form, is how marriages end. You know, I was in, Ange and I were in couples therapy by the time I was done with Neverhood in the late 90s, having a video game company where I spent more time on it than my wife. And one thing I think all of us human beings know is you don't put objects over people. Like, you don't keep a comic is just another object, and it doesn't go over your loved ones. Your loved ones first, and your comic is something you add to your loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
You don't add your loved ones to your comic. So to hell with a comic, it'll work itself out. Your art form will work itself out, but you'll always prioritize family, and you'll sneak your comic in.
Yep. It's been like the only way I've been able to make things is to, like, I refuse to the best of my ability, allow my comics making to interfere with my kids or even my marriage. Usually it means, you know, I don't work until 11 o'clock at night, you know, because then my wife's decided she's going to bed, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to sit down and work till 2 in.the morning. And that gets grueling for sure. But
what kind of person works on their comic while their kid's sitting there with poopy diapers for 18 hours? You call those people sociopaths, and you throw them in jail.
But it can definitely be a challenge. But I don't know. I think my body's just gotten hardened to it now. I'm like, this is just how it happens. But I'm actually really actively trying to think through what is a better work-life balance, because towards the end of the production on the final books, I was so tired. I can't let this continue to be my mode of operation. So I'm actively thinking through what does a better work-life balance look like. I kind of know what I'm able to handle on a daily basis without losing too much sleep. And I'm going to try really hard to aim towards that. I know eventually deadlines start to make it more difficult if you have them anyway. So.
Yeah, I hear you guys on the work-life balance. I like what you said, Doug, because I mean, that's why I took a year off from trying to even start another comic after I finished Remind, because I felt like my family life just got to this almost point of no return. And I mean, you remember, I called you up and I was crying to you, Doug.
Yep.
Help me. You know, and you can really go there fast without knowing it. And, you know, you see it all the time in movies about artists and musicians and stuff. Like, I was just watching this documentary about the band, I think it was Journey, where they lost their lead singer and they found another one from the Philippines. Cool documentary. But there was this one statement that one of the band members said at the end. He's like, your art, you have to sacrifice everything for it. you're going to lose your family, your loved ones, you're going to lose everyone. And if you don't, you're not really doing art, you know? And he's like, just plan to sacrifice everything for this art, you know? And it's really frustrating to hear that, because you hear that over and over again from young people thinking, you guys all need to bow down to what I want to do, you know?
Yeah.
And sorry, wife and kids, or sorry, mom and dad, you know?
Yeah.
My priorities are first, because it's a hobby that I love.
Yeah. I had to put this band before putting food in your mouth. What if instead of being a band, he was a steel worker?
Yeah.
He's like, I have to, or put the stockbroker. I have to broker and buy all these stocks instead of feed you. And everyone would see him for the monster he is. So as soon as you go into it's for comics or for painting or for music, we have this romanticized notion of like, well, it's okay to neglect everyone for music.
Yeah.
Instead of being a stockbroker. You know?
Yeah.
It's like evil.
Because my music's healing people.
Yeah.
Did I tell you guys the story? Like, I can't remember if I brought it up in one of our previous discussions, but I literally had a comics professor. I was engaged in my junior year of college. So my senior year of college. And so my whole final year of college, I was engaged, and I was going to get married shortly after. And I literally had a professor tell me, he's like, "You're going to destroy your art career by getting married." And I was like,
God.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'd rather get married. It's gonna be okay. Like, and the exact opposite has been the case. Like, because I'm married, and because I, in a very real sense, right out of college, felt like pressure to like, okay, I need to not just sit around and play video games all day. I should be productive. Like, whereas like I did not work hard when I was in high school and stuff in my art, because I don't think I became as aware of how competitive the environment was until I was out of college, and I saw how good people really are. But but having my wife support me and also kind of be there to push me along really is part of the reason I got really serious about it. So I think he couldn't have been further from the truth.
I agree with
my
that,
personal
Connie,
experience.
I wasted so much time before I got married, before I had kids. Like I would just spend 18 hours straight playing Atari or something. And now there's none of that, because now I care about my family so much that each hour kind of has a dollar amount ascribed to it, where I have to justify it now, going like, this is, if I just screw around now, like if I played Warcraft, it would take time away from my wife. And I can't justify that with everything I want to do.
Yeah.
So it actually focused me and made my art, my writing, and certainly my comics anyways, more like a hammer, because I love my family so much.
Mm-hmm.
Something I learned when I was doing the novel writing part was to lower my expectations and to slow things down a lot. And so when it came time to think of deadlines for my book, for example, I gave myself a lot of extra time to make space for those unexpected episodes that you can't avoid in life. And like, I think I'm kind of the belief that whatever you're feeling at the moment kind of gets bottled up and put into the work like a time capsule, and then the consumer feeds on that, you know. So I don't want to spread a bunch of stress,
Right.
bottle up stress in my comic and send that out to the world. Like I want it to be like a bit of peace, you know, like a place to rest and escape. Like that's kind of my goal, and I'm just trying to keep my expectations low and my pace low, and like instead of thinking, oh, I'm going to be the next Tezuka and I'm going to do like 100 books before I die and I'm going to change the face of comics. It's more like, I want to be kind of like Diana Wynne Jones and kind of have a cult following for only one book maybe. And I have some B-grade books kind of in the background. Like that's kind of would be nice, you know, like if I only did this one story and if I happen to do it right, like, you know, like, oh my gosh, Lord of the Rings guy. I'm going to be blasted for this. I can't think of his name right now. But you know what I mean. Tolkien, yes. Like you just have one product, that's okay. Like I think going to art school, especially, there's like a lot of pressure to do something awesome, like right out the gate, or otherwise you're a failure. But that's like a formula to just burn out. And I don't know. Better not to disappoint yourself, I guess.
Yeah, and Amy, house moms that have to do comics, you need a special medal because what you do is far harder than what I do. I just think pulling
this off. True. I don't sit there painting stuff like original painting.
I'm going mad, and I will get out of this and go into a 12-step group. But What you do is you need a medal because it is hard. It's hard enough to do a comic, but you can go to Women Everywhere and other comics and just go, I did it and picked up these kids from school and fed them all. And stuff.
The kids are by far my greatest work I've ever created. I mean, they're amazing, you know, like everything else pales in comparison, but it's just sort of, this is just something I'm doing while I'm alive.
But you'll kick all of the single comic artists in the ass by showing them what you did.
It's not a competition. We need each other, Doug.
Okay.
We all need each other. It's such a small industry.
Hey.
I have no role. But thanks, Doug.
Yeah. Great. I'm proud of you.
I'd like to add. I would totally say that there is certainly some truth to the statement that certain art can only be done by people that have a certain lifestyle. But I don't think that you cover the whole range of possible stories with that.
Right.
There need to be stories told by people that are more grounded and have a more normal lifestyle, because we tell stories to other people that also have an everyday life, and to relate to them and to connect with them, we kind of have to share the same fate, I would say. And nothing against those extreme stories that are, or I would even take it broader. The extreme art in any artistic medium that is done by people that, you know, all those guys and girls that die at 28 or something like that. I appreciate their sacrifice, and I appreciate the hates and the extreme places they take their stories. But it's not only about that. It's not that this is only the true art, and that nothing can stand beside that. I think you have to look at this in broader terms.
Yeah.
Very well said.
It kind of breaks my heart. Like probably my favorite cartoonist, and he's not even a cartoonist, is Hayao Miyazaki. Like Nausicaa was probably my biggest inspiration comics wise, and to get that level of skill, you know, Miyazaki's been dedicating 16 to 18 hours a day for 50 years, and he doesn't have a family life, even though he has a wife and a couple sons. And I remember reading his son's blog and just hearing what it was like growing up, and his son watching his movies to try to understand who his dad was. And it broke my heart, because I respect Miyazaki so much, but I also know that he left a person. He left his kids in order to do that. And as much as I love his work and want to make something like him someday, it's I just know that I can't do that, and that the family is more important. People are more important than art ultimately. And
Miyazaki's also, Mike, Stephen, he's in a culture. If you ever look up articles on Japanese work ethic, I mean, he's from a culture where that was not considered immoral or strange. It's incredibly common. There's a lot of pressure on men to be providers and things, and what he did was very hard. So you can't look at it from our point of view, where we're much more like, the dad splits the job with the mom, and we have to be there for our kids. That's just that's not his world. That's not his world. So he gets a break on that a little bit.
Yeah.
if I may make a cultural argument.
So yeah, my family, my grandparents and my mom, took me out of that culture, and brought me to this one, and I'm very cognizant that they can go in that direction with comics, and why do some of the greatest comic artists retire at my age, in Japan, manga artists are just driven just to the ground. They just can't. human beings just they don't have the capacity to do the kind of work that's demanded by that industry.
Yeah.
And we have to be wary of that, I think, because we're laying the groundwork for something new here. And it's good to recognize that early, so that the same types of things don't happen. And I mean, I suppose in some sense in the 50s and 60s it did happen here with American. And we're still. And if I used to go to like CAPS meetings and things like that, and you talk to the older generation of comic artists, and things are very, very different than they used to be. We have a chance to build something new. It's a good idea not to run each other into the ground.
Yeah.
That's the entire theme of the second Adamsville book was me wrestling with all this. Was people being more important than art and work and.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, oddly enough, Mouse goes into some of this as the son is considering what his father's, a Depression era generation went through. We just don't understand the idea of needing to work just to barely be able to eat. And so their generation was just kind of, you worked all day, all night to get a potato, to bring home to your children. And there's no such thing as love of your children if you can't put a potato in their mouth, or if you just offer them this amazing painting that was full of your honest self-expression, but didn't include something to eat, then that art form, you know what I mean? What's the meaning of it? So you can really see, if you look through their economy, and there's a lot of these kinds of economies around the world where we're given the luxury of getting to be self-expressive and have a family. These are rare times, guys. We're lucky. Rare times.
It's true.
Yeah, I spend most of my time just reading nonfiction, reading history, like that, and it gives me bearings, like as to where I need to be, and then trying to read like where things are at with things that are going around us, and what position can I play. I love sports, so I'll always refer to playing positions in sports. But like, where can I be to, help move the needle to a place where I feel there's essentially more peace. I think it's what I liked about Miyazaki's work too. I feel like that's kind of how he feels, and he's like in this really volatile culture and industry, and he's managed to do that. But obviously,
he's
casualties.
Yeah, there's bodies in their wake, but it doesn't mean he could do much else. If he went home to be a good family man, his animation studio could have crashed, and he could have ruined the jobs for 100 other people who fed their families.
From my understanding, he's so pessimistic as a person, and his work is so optimistic. Like, he is so stubborn about saying there's hope out there. Yeah. There is a peace worth seeking. And then when you hear him talk about, society in general, he's just so dark, so hopeless.
Yeah.
I'm actually reading Nausicaa right now. I bought the double trade a couple of years ago, and I never read it. So I was like, I need to crack this thing open.
Yeah, without that book, I wouldn't be drawn. I wouldn't be doing this.
It's insane. It is good work, fun work.
His comics feel so alive. Like, his animation background is just like, it's a movie on paper. It's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I never really liked much of his stories. I did like, I'll admit, I like Spirited Away and Totoro, but not much else. We watch Miyazaki here. My daughters are fans of him, and we watch him in my house all the time. And I still just kind of scratch my head at his storytelling. But the thing that he captures is he knows how to create atmosphere and wonder. And it kind of reminds me of us liking graphic novelists just for their ability to draw a killer drawing. It's like, I don't go to Miyazaki for story. I do go to him for making great characters and putting great wonder and atmosphere on screen. It's kind of, if I had to like him. And I know I'm out of sorts with a lot of people on that, but that's kind of what I get out of him.
Yeah, I think you touched upon a good thing. I'm not even sure Miyazaki would consider himself a great writer. He does,
Yeah.
like, I feel like he's, like, in his work, he's just exploring
Yeah.
an emotion, you know, so he's more like a painter, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm with you. I when I construct stories, mine are way more logical, I guess, like
linear Western narrative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's just because that's what I grew up with, and that's what I studied in film school. You know, the act structures, everything. And where he was clearly, you know, he didn't really have that much in the way of structure besides what maybe Kurosawa had done prior to.
That's what's so weird, Kazu, is Kurosawa is going to Western cinema. It shows up 100% in all of Kurosawa's work.
Yeah.
And here Miyazaki's a fan of Kurosawa, but he didn't take from him his love of, you know, Sergio Leone or Western cinema. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That Western arc is just not in his work.
Yeah, I know. He's
so good.
not a genre filmmaker.
Yeah.
He works in genres, but they're not genre filmmaking. Like in the traditional sense.
Well, he's very much he invented his own genre. Is what's weird. He's inventing story structure that I've never seen.
Yeah.
I think I really admire his approach, and it's been one of the things that's freed me a lot as I've worked on Space Boy. Is I think in Western storytelling, and especially in Hollywood, you kind of start out with your message at the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, this is the theme, and we're going to do Act 1, theme stated, and then by the end, the Dark Night of the Soul, we're going to bring out the theme and prove our points.
Yeah.
But Miyazaki is, I read in an interview, he was like, it takes him sometimes it's like, sometimes he only understands his films, you know, a couple months after they've come out in theaters. He's like, oh, is that what I was doing? And there's a humility there where he is trying to figure out he's trying to understand the world, and he puts himself in problems. He works with problems that he doesn't know the answers to. And why that is so revolutionary and important, I think, is because if you don't know from scene to scene what's going to happen, every scene is just striking and exciting because you don't know. If you do know, your audience will probably know as well. But if you don't quite know exactly where it's going and how it's going to resolve, it's a terrifying way to create something. But it creates ultimately.
I would say irresponsible.
Irresponsible, even.
Look,
I totally get what Doug's saying, because I think the big wonder is not that you have someone who's writing a story out of his gut. I think all the novel writers are essentially doing that. But the wonder is that you have someone doing that at the head of a studio of dozens and maybe hundreds of people that are just waiting for his whims and are ready to give their best of their craft to make this vision possible.
Yeah,
and
he doesn't know how it's going to end.
That's just such a rare thing. You know, Doug said it, or I don't know who said it, that it's like painting. Yeah, it is a process like painting. You put paint on the canvas, you look what you have done, you evaluate, you reshape, you just are in constant evolution with your work.
Yeah.
But when you are a painter, you're doing that on your own. You don't have 100 people waiting for your ideas and then do what you command them to do, so to say. And it is really like that. You know, I once had the chance to visit an exhibition in Paris, which featured the original layout drawings that were done for most of the Ghibli films, and actually for most of the animated series that Miyazaki layouted.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely astonishing for me to realize that the layout artist actually created the whole film.
Yeah.
Every shot is exactly drawn in the layout. The characters are drawn in their final in their final quality. The backgrounds are drawn in their final layout, and everything that comes after that is basically tracing. And people just trying to recreate as precisely as possible what was defined by the layout artists.
Well, but isn't Miyazaki the layout guy? When I see the layout,
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah, he writes the whole movie in storyboard.
That's the thing. But you know, what really struck me was that, of course, everyone is doing storyboards for films, but in a film, there's a big difference between the storyboard and the final film.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a thing of interpretation. You know, but with the layouts, the method that they are using, the Japanese animation studios, the layout artist is practically creating the movie. And Miyazaki is not even an extreme example of that. I remember some of the stuff. I don't remember the name. I have a hard time remembering all those Japanese names. But you know the guy who created like Paprika and Tokyo Godfathers and a bunch.
I didn't check it out.
Toshi Kon, is that him?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's him exactly. And his layout drawings are like stills from the movie. Not in color, but perfectly drawn stills from the movie, and that really fascinated me. That you have a whole staff of people that is just there to serve the genius of the one director / layout artist.
That sounds like somebody I know. Well, that's what it felt like at the end of Amulet, because we're just like, we can't decide anything until he was done with the ink.
See, this is why I don't work in movies, guys, because I don't want to take anybody in there with me. It's not
a pretty sight.
It's not pretty, you know, and that's what art's not pretty. That's like we're, you know, I mean, at least when I think it's done at a place where there's some genuine, you know, emotional weight to it.
Yeah.
And that's actually why I got out of film. Because I just didn't have the heart to, you know, to lead a big group of people into that type of thing.
So
you know.
I'm curious, Kazu, because I know that Miyazaki will start final animation before he knows the end of his movies, which is a terrifying thing. And I also know that when I was writing, like usually what would happen is I'd write a draft, I'd think I was done, and then I would throw away most of it, write a second draft, throw that away, and then by the end, like I had to rewrite the ending a couple times, and it was miserable. Do you start production on final pages before you know the ending and before you have the thumbnails done, or how does that work?
He's thrown out a whole section I slatted.
I have a sense of the end. You know, and so I have like checkpoint markers that I know I have to get to, you know, and so I just, but I do want the story to have like this authentic feeling of exploration, the journey part of it. And the only way I've ever been able to get that is by trying to not know some things.
Yeah.
You know, and just allow, you know, it's like playing jazz in like a more, you know, just like an improvisational setting. There's, I have markers down, but like, I want to like dance around them and get to the final parts of the story. And honestly, the only reason I do this actually is mostly because I don't have time. I'm not given enough time to do it otherwise. Like I would be perfectly fine going on my emotional and psychological journey and of the story in a separate space and without anybody else involved. But once your book is set on a schedule, you don't have that. Whereas if you don't have a book published yet, and you're looking, you know, I tell a lot of my friends this, like, take advantage of this quiet time that you have when no one's putting any pressure on you. That way, you can explore as far as you want before you make a determination that this is the book that you're going to deliver. But you can't do that when other people rely on you. When that happens, then certain choices become a lot more difficult. How much longer can you hold something? How much longer, can you explore? And you have to know how to tether yourself and bring yourself back.
So,
Kaz,
don't you advocate for just finishing a book then?
I do. Yeah, I'd say people do it just like if your free time, just like what Michael's doing right now. I'm watching him do this, and I think he's doing it right. It's fantastic.
It's what he needs to do, so that's why I did what I did.
It's true. But there's the thing. The thing is that there just hasn't been that many. We need to keep the door open, though. And so I just raise my hand. I'll go. I'll keep the door open, just like Jeff Smith did. Because if these books aren't around, then we have to reinvent it again, and that's way harder. That is so much hard. Like, I know how hard that is because I've had to essentially be a part of the reinvention of it when I was part of Flight and doing all this stuff and the webcomics movement, being part of Scott McCloud's group. It's redoing all that is just no. I would quit if I had to do all that again.
What you were saying about the pressure element, it's funny. I actually for a brief moment, I was like, I'm going to share this promo image I've been working on for this book I'm coming up with, and I put it on Twitter, and like minutes later, I was like, instant regret. I was like, I just don't want anybody to know anything. Like, I want the peace of just like, I'm just doing a thing and no one knows what I'm doing, and I don't have to. I've gotten really precious about even that. It's so nice to not be like, webcomics scare me now, like that I'm just going to keep showing people all this stuff as I'm trying to figure it out. Like, it made webtoons difficult at times because I was like, man, I'm still figuring out my ending and I got to turn this thing in a couple weeks or something. But I've really grown to appreciate being able to work on stuff in quiet where no one's paying that much attention to you.
I'm writing on my next book. I'm just really intimidated by it, more so than any other book I've ever written. Just terrified, and I need to work on it in private, and I'm not going to podcast anything about it or anything until I'm done, because I'm so scared that I just feel like I need some alone time, as long as it takes, to get this thing right. It's a World War II book that some of you guys know about, but I kind of need to go away and just work on it and not put on a show and not worry about all the online marketing stuff. Because I feel like it's threatened, like I won't finish it. That's how touch and go it is.
Yeah. What is the biggest thing?
You're breaking up, Steven. I can't hear you.
Yeah,
sorry about that. What's the biggest thing that scares you about the project?
It's a World War II book, and I know very little about history because I'm an idiot who was educated in California, so like I'm illiterate, and so I have to do a whole lot of World War II research, and I have very little interest in World War II. My story needs to take place in that time. I can't tell you why, but it needs to take place in that time, and so I have to do kind of a story set in the time that I don't have any knowledge of and I need to learn about. And it's a very well-known era. World War II is one of the most researched eras of our time. It's like, if you're a history buff, one thing is World War II. It's not like I could go into the 1906 where no one knows about 1906 and I could put all these fast ones on it. As soon as I'm drawing tanks and guns and uniforms and locations, everybody knows, and they're going to look at it and go, that guy didn't wear that kind of patch on his uniform in World War II.
Yeah.
So that's
You
one.
follow,
and even the diction, even the language, I don't know much about, from that period.
You need to follow real-time World War II on Twitter. They go through. I think they just recently started back over, but like every day they make tweets of what was happening this day in World War II.
Ooh, let me write that down.
And I've been following them for years. Here, I'll copy and paste it to you. Where's our chat?
Real-time World War II.
Here's the link to it. I posted in the group chat.
So
it's really cool. I've been following it for years.
I'm gonna buy a bunch of like accurate Japanese toys of little military figures of Allies and Nazis and all the hardware and stuff. So I'll use that and I'll photograph it as reference, and then kind of, I don't know about doing trace downs, but I can't draw perspective very well, and there's a lot of like trench warfare stuff, and it just so that's just scary to me, the amount of research. Usually I draw stuff a little more in naturally in my wheelhouse, and this one I made the mistake of half pitching it to David Saylor at Scholastic, and he goes, I want that one. I was like, and I'm trying to get him off it now. He's like, nope, I want that one. I'm like, oh man, I got to do that freaking book. But the thing is, from a story standpoint, I'm really excited about it. Like my heart warms about what the story is going to be. I just, it's all the nuts and bolts of doing that story for the next year. I'm going like, oh man, this is going to be hard. It's going to be hard.
You do, Doug. Go get him.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that. I'm sure that'll help.
Yeah.
I'll go cry myself to sleep at night, sucking my thumb.
Yeah.
Your encouragement will warm
Have
me.
you been doing a lot of history research on the lead up to World War II rather than the actual event itself?
I mean, a little bit. I get into I bought a bunch of books. I'm doing as much as I can, but that's what, in a way, what happens is I crack open the books on the prehistory and the writers of the time, and I'm just like, oh God, this thing is like freaking huge. I need like a doctorate level education, and I'm so far away. So it's almost like the more I learn, the more I realize how inadequate I am.
Yeah, it's tough. I've had a World War II idea ever since college, and same thing, like where I was like, that'd be fun, and then I just immediately get so intimidated by it. I'm like, just moonwalk out of the room. Like, no,
yeah, and
leave
like,
that one
even
alone.
if you were doing it in Vietnam or Korea, people wouldn't care because those wars aren't sacred to us. It's like World War II is like the sacred war. So I can't just kind of screw around and have a dragon show up in the middle and do my usual, and a man who's a praying mantis shows up. It's like I need to kind of tell this story straight up, and I can't BS my way around it. So.
With you.
It'll be fun. I'll figure it out. It's exciting because I've never done a book like that before, where I actually had to do what like real authors do and like do research, responsible things. But,
You've made it.
You got to take a vacation to Normandy now.
Yeah, and my colorist Catherine, their family actually owns a little cabin in Normandy. I've thought of doing that. I could fly to that cabin and stay in it for like a month. And probably write it all and get like a tax write-off for it. I could get the whole thing like pro bono because it's research for my business.
That would be a powerful experience.
Wouldn't that be that'd be great?
Oh man, I think I would weep if I sat on Normandy Beach.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're gonna have to cut out because we gotta go get lunch and then late lunch and then pick up the kids.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I gotta get dinner myself, gang. Kazu, Amy, it was great seeing your faces again.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Can't wait
Thanks
to
for joining, Amy.
Well, thanks you guys for hanging out with us.
I think I'm going to join the cutout for dinner time, too.
Yeah. Good seeing you again, Jason, at Emerald City. That was nice.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming to my booth.
Of course.
But you were gone finishing Amula 8.
Yeah.
Emulate.
Yeah, we can.
I think I'm going to cut out to go have dinner too.
I'll pester you guys all again next time. And whoever else wants to stay, please do.
Goodbye, everybody.
Hey,
take care.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
I think I'm probably gonna dip out too and get some food because I am starving.
Nice. Daniel's at 1 o'clock in the morning there for you?
No. It's not even 11.
Oh.
Good chatting with you guys. I'll catch you later.
Okay, see you, Josh.
Bye.
Bye, Josh.
Oh no, my Wacom driver failed on me. It has died. No Wacom for me.
So now the least talkative people have to make conversation.
Wow.
No, it's me. It's only me that's the least talkative this time.
Man,
Any questions in the chat?
I'm a little bit bummed out that you had no chance to talk about Emerald City Comic Con yet, Jason.
Oh, well, I guess I could say a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's a shame when all the people are now away, but they can watch the recording later, so
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, it was kind of bittersweet because I don't plan on going back next year, so I was kind of looking at it as like the last year that I would go. Anyway, just mainly because the show's getting so big. It's so big and long now that it's really expensive to do it, and it takes so much time away. It's kind of like how the San Diego Comic-Con is, which I know you probably don't know what that means, but it's just like 7-8 days out of your life where you're like devoted completely to this, whether it's going there or setting up or breaking down or selling or, and so you just got to make a ton of money to break even. And the best thing about conventions is the connections with people, more like other artists, kind of like what this stream is.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the best part about the conventions. But I'm able to get so much of that online, and I sell online. I've probably made more money online while I was at the convention than what I made at the convention. Once I deduct all my expenditures,
Yeah.
So I can't go there necessarily to make money with that mindset. And you get a new small fan. It's like there are new people that walk away discovering your work there, but it's not as big as like, just launching a Kickstarter or even doing a good marketing advertising campaign online or something like that, or even doing YouTube videos or these live streams. I think people have a better chance of finding us doing stuff like this, because you can reach them in their house, not just the select group of people who've come to find a certain product, because everyone kind of has something that they're looking for when they go there, So yeah, I just, over the years, I've been kind of slowly backing away from cons, and I really think the only ones I'm going to really focus on doing are the ones that, this may sound dumb, but the ones that actually pay me to come out or give me a spot, because otherwise it's just too much of a time suck, and it's kind of a risk if you'll actually get that money back too that you're spending if it's really big and expensive, so.
That sounds all very familiar. It seems to be a theme, like a theme going on right now in comics. If you listen to the Surviving Creativity podcast, for example, or the Comic Labs podcast, everyone kind of says, conventions, you really have to do the math, and if it's not around the corner and you can save travel and hotel costs, you should really not do it.
Yeah.
Unless you have some pretty clear goals that you want to achieve by attending a convention. And I'm listening to all of that from the distance, because I have not the option to go to all these comic conventions, and I just see that you can build your business completely without that element of convention. Yeah. It's possible.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm planning on making a video about conventions and why I'm not really favoring them, and so I'll try to touch on all this. But I really believe that conventions are kind of the old school way of getting your audience in a niche market. And now it's like, it's obvious. It's the internet. You don't need to go out there and find a group of niche people anymore. And not to mention conventions now, they don't want to sell themselves as comic conventions. They want to be everything. They want to be pop culture conventions, And so, you're just jumping into a world that's not really niche anymore, you know. And whereas online, you can niche it down and really find that targeted group of people that you're looking for, you know.
Yeah.
So those are my thoughts on it.
Jason, what is that drawing? What is it for? And why are you making it?
I'm doing an extra page, a new spread for the middle of Cithra 4. There was the scene where there's this this guy right here, this evil demon bunny type thing grows out of the sand, and the page before it, he's just like normal, and I'm like, wait, I need a little bit more of a transition, and this would be a great opportunity to have a nice double page spread of craziness. So it's kind of a little bonus for the printed book, I think.
Very cool.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
It's a fun. It was a really fun scene to draw, and so I can go back to it pretty easily. It's not difficult.
So is it then true that you are mixing a digitally inked page with because in the middle of Cithra you had not yet started to ink digitally, right?
Yeah.
So you sneak in a digitally inked drawing between the traditionally inked pages.
Yeah, I was thinking I would print it out, but my printer's still broken and I need to buy a new one. And so I'm like, you know what? Just to get this done, I'm gonna just do it, and we'll see if anyone notices. And as Cithra has moved on, like I've gone back and forth a little bit, and then I finally went full on digital. So I think I've kind of gotten used to kind of blending the two, or making it kind of look like it's in the same world. So yeah. I don't know.
I think no one will notice. I think your digital inks look very organic.
Yeah.
They have pretty much the same quality than your traditional inks.
Yeah. And I changed things up in the last book of Remind. I actually started using an ink brush instead of pencil, and it was really obvious. It was like really obvious. Like no one would argue that it's not obvious, but because of it comes from the same hand, and I'm using the same textures and coloring. It's like no one really cares, and it doesn't take away from the story or doesn't bother anyone. And it was only after I say, well, yeah, this is inked, obviously, can't you tell? And they're like, oh yeah, of course. So I figure if it's that different with Remind and no one cared, then I don't think it'll matter too much in this situation.
Yeah, that's true.
Man, I wanted to ask Kazu and Doug about pitching stuff, but I'll wait till next week or next time.
Yeah.
I was just enjoying
in the next episode, how to apply to Scholastic and land your book deal with them.
Right.
Tune
Part
in.
of it is because I think I've asked everyone the same question enough times, so it's like they're probably like, really? You're gonna ask me this again? It was a different book though. Things have changed. So Daniel, we can't see what. I'm the only one who can see what's working on. Come on, guys, show us your stuff.
I did I did the layout of this week's Webtoons episode of the Wormworld Saga.
Oh, okay.
So this was not super exciting, and now I'm finished and kind of hanging around just a little bit more. Soon I will have to go to bed, but
yeah.
We'll wrap it. It's a nice place to hang around here with you guys.
I noticed that my iPod more stable.
We'll wrap it up when you decide to go, Daniel.
Oh, now the burn's on me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Daniel.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steven.
Welcome, guys. You're welcome. Yeah, actually, my Wacom driver just died, and I am not able. which is odd. Normally, I can just restart it from the services window, but now it has completely died on me, so I can't do anything without restarting the computer, and I will obviously not do that. So I will turn over to my keyboard and practice a little bit.
You're gonna do some music?
Yeah, but on my headphones. I won't disturb your your working with my very bad piano playing. It has been a dream to get more into music for quite some time. And when I turned 40 last year, I just made the jump and invested in some equipment just to get started.
Yeah.
Digital music production. And I'm very far away from doing something that I would dare to present in public.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going into that direction. I'm a big music fan, and I think I'm a musical person too. I'm just lacking the technical skills to express that, and
yeah.
I'm working through that right at the moment.
So you haven't played any instruments or anything all your life?
No, not really. I had him when I was smaller. My brother is 9 years older than me, and he had in his teenage years he had something like a home studio. He had all those 80s keyboards and the Logic software and everything to make music production. And every time when he was not in his studio, I would sneak in and toy around with his stuff, and that kind of got me in touch with that stuff. At some point, I was actually able to play the piano piece, The Entertainer. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah, wow.
I was able to play that because I watched the MIDI file, and I watched in Logic you have this piano roll where you can see what note corresponds to what key on the keyboard. And I memorized that over a few weeks, step by step, and that way I was able to play. So
wow.
You could say that I played a keyboard for quite some time. But when I left home, when he left home and took his equipment with him, I was left without musical instruments and was concentrating on drawing stuff anyway. So that kind of went into the background. I became more of a music fan, listening to music, than making it myself. But no, I just wanted to turn the wheel on that thing.
Yeah.
So
are you finding that practicing music is similar to like getting good at art?
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah. Music is art.
It's so funny. All these parallels between the art forms. It's just amazing. And I actually think I will get a lot out of it for my drawing and painting things.
Yeah.
From music.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And vice versa. Yeah. I came up with something that really worked very well for me. I combined my storytelling affinity to the musical stuff. I invented a little 7-step storyline to memorize the scales, the musical scales.
Oh, really?
And this worked very well for me. I was not able to memorize what keys I had to press for a very long time to play a specific musical scale. And this little story that I invented, and that gets adjusted for every scale. So I have a bass story for the key of C major, and then for the other keys, I adjust just the necessary steps in the story. And that way I could effortlessly memorize them. That was really helpful.
Really? Whoa.
Yeah. At some time I will make a YouTube video on that method because it's gold.
That would be cool. I would like to see that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So are you at this point like just practicing skills, just trying to build up your muscle memory, just trying to get your rhythm going?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also training my ear,
Oh yeah.
Kind of anticipating what sound will come out of a key if I hit it in advance, so that I can kind of the music that is in my head, that I can bring it to the keyboard without testing too much. That's currently the things that I'm trying to learn.
Yeah. See, I had roommates that played guitar, and so I learned from them.
I noticed that in your YouTube videos.
Yeah, I learned from them like years and years ago, and then I finally bought my own guitar. This was 15 years ago or so, and then I started making my own songs, and it was all 4-track based at that point. So I didn't really play in bands much. Like I've played live a couple times, but I found that the thing I love the most about music is actually the recording process and trying to capture like all these different things together to where it makes a song. That was just so fascinating to me. And so now I have music instruments and stuff, but I don't practice enough to where I'd ever want to go out and play in front of people, like in a show. But I love being able to like record things and with the computer now, instead of like a old 4-track tape, it's just like the possibilities are so insanely endless.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that's more my love of it, is like recording and capturing something. And because once I capture it and make a song or something, it's like I hardly ever play the song again. Yeah,
it's a little bit, and I for me personally, I see a lot of parallels to like working in Photoshop. It's this composing idea that you have little fragments that you record. You can I don't know, if you work with MIDI, you can assign those melodies to different instruments. You can edit the stuff. You can move it around, stretch it, and whatever. And it reminds me a lot about constructing illustrations in the digital painting workflow, as opposed to like sitting at a piano and playing a virtuous piano piece, which is the equivalent for me like painting a traditional painting with paint, where you sit there and you really can't change a lot in the process. You just have to nail it,
Yeah.
And the digital music production is much more like the digital illustration or digital image production. It is constant evolution. It is editing. It is changing, composing. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Like just sitting down and playing a song from start to finish on the guitar, it's kind of like, I could do that, but I never really want to, But playing a little line and then putting it in the computer and then mixing it with a different something else and putting another line over top of it, that's where it gets exciting. Yeah, I can see that. It's totally like the digital Photoshop art versus just all traditional painting.
And it's all the same things, when you're getting into Photoshop and stuff, all you care for is getting brushes from other people and getting textures and getting all this stuff. And when you start with music, all you care about is getting those digital instruments, to have all those different little tools in your toolbox, and it kind of tends to distract you from the actual creative process. And you just fumble around with all these settings and little sliders and knobs that you can manipulate in all this. So I totally reenact my early painting illustration years. It's the same, just in another art form.
So
and it is absolutely what's absolutely interesting for me is that when you come from illustration on the computer and go into sound design and music, you have absolutely no parallels between the illustration or painting or even 3D software world and the sound software world. In image software, I have basically seen everything, and when a new 3D software comes out, you can normally learn it very fast because they all do basically the same. So when you know Photoshop and when you know 3D Studio, you can already work with Painter or even Clip Studio and Maya and Blender and whatever. It all is one world that abides to a fixed set of rules, I would say. And then you open up something like Cubase, and you have no idea what all this stuff is for.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, there's no clue. And I started watching YouTube videos like a newbie because, in this field, I'm a complete newbie, and I had to start from scratch. And that was really a humbling experience for me, I have to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I've tried Cubase, or I had it. I got a demo of it, and I was just like, oh, this is so not like anything else,
Yeah, down to the point that I had no idea about sound mixing.
Yeah.
And that this exists as a vital part of music production.
Yeah.
That playing the music and recording the music is not everything. That's not stopping there. And this must be so much similar to someone discovering Photoshop and seeing that it's not only about drawing and throwing the color in there, but you can arrange the stuff in layers. You can make color corrections. You can make contrast corrections and all that stuff. It's like a hidden world that you don't know about because you don't see it on the surface. When you see an image, you think it was just painted that way, and that's the same with like music mixing. Using those equalizers and filters and balancing the different tracks in the stereo image and all this stuff. It's but it's exciting too. It's exciting.
Like mastering stuff is like this whole other art form. I've been trying to like listen to tutorials on that or watch them, and it's so deep compared to what you think. Oh yeah, here's a song. Here's the bass line. Here's the whatever line, and they go together, right?
Yeah.
Nope. There's all these dumb little tricks. It's so over my head. But I figure I'll do it like anything else I've done, where in my art world career, where it's just like I'll just keep making stuff, and each one hopefully will get a little better. And as long as I'm enjoying learning it, then I'll keep doing it. Because like each song I try to record, it's like I'm really embarrassed usually. I mean, every song I'm embarrassed before I put it out, but I finally just get over that embarrassment and go, this is as good as I can do now, and I'm willing to accept that. I'm not trying to be a professional musician. I'm not fooling myself here.
Yeah, that's true. But on the other hand, sometimes you realize that the difference between an amateur musician and a professional musician, the biggest difference between those two is that the one is doing music and the other one is not. And as soon as you start making music, and even if it's the first steps, you are a lot more closer to the musician than you are to the non-musician.
That's true, yeah.
The first step is the biggest step.
You know what gave me a lot of confidence to just throw stuff out there and be like, whatever, I'll do this, and love him or hate him, but the kid Skrillex, he basically, you read articles about him or see interviews with him. He like makes music on his laptop, in his hotel room, and with his headphones, and then he goes and plays a show the next day with that music, And it's like, man, if a kid can make it on a laptop with headphones, then what's stopping me from just making stuff and putting it out there, or using
That's very
it?
true.
So,
Yeah,
so
that's
that's kind of my go-to in my head. I've never said it out loud, but if Skrillex can do it, then so can I.
Yeah. I have to be careful though that I don't devote too much time into it, because right now for me it's the big new exciting thing.
Yeah.
Where you can explore so many things in so many directions, and compared to that, the visual art kind of looks like the old trusty thing where you have seen a lot and don't see so many new stuff that really kind of surprises you. But on a logical level, I really try to not go into the trap of lagging behind on the visual arts. Thing, because that would be not what I imagine.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll work on stuff at night now if it's music related, and at home, after everyone's in bed, and it's usually when Shelly's like out doing an exercise class. She teaches exercise classes, and sometimes they're at like 8 o'clock at night after the kids have gone to bed. So I'll use those times to get out the guitar and like practice a line over and over and try to capture it. And because you just start hearing the same thing over and over again, it drives everyone around you nuts. And so you kind of got to do it either with earphones or by yourself.
Yeah.
And I'll go like through a phase where it's like every night that I can do it, I'll work on it, and then I just get like, okay, I'm done, and I won't touch it for like 2 weeks or a month or something. And then I'll get all excited again and do it every night whenever I can, So yeah, that's my habit. But I'm the same, where it's like I know that I'm good at doing the art side of it. I can make a living from that. So I got to treat it as a hobby. If I'm having fun with it, the music, then it's cool. But if it starts getting beyond that, then or draining all my time, when it's like when I should be doing the art, when I'm behind on things, then yeah, it's like, okay, calm down, Jason.
Yeah.
This is the hobby. This is like saying I'm going to go I'm going to snowboard every day because I love it. It's like, no, it's a hobby. I'm not going to be Shaun White. It's like, just chill, like have fun.
That's the thing. I mean, if you look at it that way, that you can really make this a hobby, because I can't make anything visual art related a hobby. It just doesn't work. I mean, I often do stuff that is not directly related. I experiment a lot in visual software and stuff like that. Yeah, but every time I do it, I instantly think in terms of how can I use it, how can I, implement it in my workflow and stuff like that. And the music thing, I can pretty much it can pretty much live on itself, and I can just enjoy it as a hobby. There's no pressure. There's no I have to post this thing going on.
Yeah.
And it just feels like relaxing,
Yeah.
And that's pretty important for me to have something like that.
Yeah. I think that might be part of it for me too, because my drawing now is, it hasn't been a hobby for a long time. So what do you do to like have a hobby and just enjoy yourself? I could watch TV or play video games, but I always, there's moments for that, but
there is, yes.
And but I don't want to just draw something else as a hobby.
Right.
Yeah, every piece of art I'm working on is like, yes, this could potentially be big, this could potentially sell and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But music, it's like not like that at all. It's like
Yeah.
This is a cool
It will
beat.
definitely not sell.
It'll definitely not sell. Not for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no fantasies of, playing in the Rose Bowl.
No.
Well, I mean, maybe there is, but I know it's unrealistic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. That's
Fine.
of
Okay,
course.
I do want to play it. No.
Of course, there are fantasies there too, but no, these
I
are
agree.
true fantasies where you know they are fantasies.
Exactly. That's what it is. Yeah. I stopped trying to do jumps on a snowboard too because I realized that my wrists are too valuable to me at this stage in my life.
That's a wise decision, I would say. But actually, if you mentioned this aspect, I noticed that like exercising on the piano is actually a good thing to balance this constant drawing movements. This very always the same, always doing the same with those muscles, always using the same muscles.
Oh yeah.
It really gets balanced by playing on a keyboard, and I think that with a guitar it must be even more extreme because you have to use much more muscles to play the guitar.
Yeah. At least you have to do it. You have to keep doing it, otherwise. For me, the guitar, it's all about the calluses. Like once you lose your calluses, then your fingers hurt when you play the guitar. And
oh yes,
so you have to constantly be on it at least a few times a week in order to keep your calluses. And so if and then my thumb will get really sore, like with certain bar chords, certain songs. Anyway, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But I neglect it too much, so it's like I have to constantly build up calluses again and build up my muscles again, and then I stop, and then I.
Hey Daniel, is your camera movable? Like, could you show me your studio if you could pick up your camera, or is that not possible?
Oh, that is absolutely possible. So
I want a tour of your place here.
All right. Let me.
And we got to see the crochet. The crochet stuff.
All right. I will take up the headphones and put you on the speaker so that I can move freely in the room. So let me turn on the light too. Oh, it's a little. So let's get a little overview. Oh. Okay, so basically. We have my painting workspace over here, my digital painting workspace. Then next to it, there's my painting table, which is actually from my school years. And it was in the basement for many years, and I reactivated it like 3 years ago. When I started to use those colors here, these are the. I have to check if my camera is doing this right. Oh, give me a. Oh, wait a minute. I have to make a little. I have fixed the exposure on the camera, I think. Give me a second.
Do you use gouache?
Yeah, exactly. You will see it in a second.
Gouache is like my favorite kind of paint.
Now it's adjusting, right?
Yeah. Looks beautiful.
So, now these are not just normal gouache colors. These are Nika poster colors, which is the brand they are using in the Japanese animation studios.
I was gonna say.
So these are really nice and very saturated, bright colors that are really, really perfect. And here you can see some of my experiments with that.
Cool.
So this is this was my first try on something like a Ghibli background. And
that's so nice.
and stuff like that. And it's
Yes,
really
that's so cool.
it's really fun doing these things with the gouache color. I had some problems. Normally, you would keep them open and just refill them with water whenever they get too dry. But I had problems with mold. The colors would get moldy, and I now transitioned to this little box here, where they are just dried up like watercolors, and they actually reactivate very nicely when you just use a wet brush on them. So I work from that, and I don't have problems with mold anymore. Yeah.
Wow.
So this is a traditional workspace, and then in the middle between is the keyboard now, waiting for me to practice on it. And of course the obligatory merchandise stuff.
Yep.
This is my cat whiskers collection.
What?
Whenever I find a cat whisker lying around the house, I just put it in this little thing.
What?
And these are all, I have not slaughtered cats, I swear. These are all found while vacuum cleaning or whatever.
I just want to say that's a direct quote from Daniel Lieske is, I have not slaughtered cats, I swear.
Yeah.
We'll put that on
the
back of your next book.
I like the quote, "This is my cat whisker collection."
Yeah, you haven't seen my crochets, you know? This is
Yeah.
So this is my abstract crocheted stuff. It's just hanging around. I've just at some point I just started to do crocheting a little bit, and I realized that I was not a big fan of like crocheting iPhone cases or stuff like that. I did one or two of those, but it got a little bit boring, and then I started to do abstract crocheting, and crocheted all these planned shapes and stuff like that. I have a little cardboard box somewhere in the cupboard with more of that, but yeah.
Wow, you are such a creative person.
Yeah, well,
that's cool.
Yeah, that looks like a true artist studio to me.
That's basically, that's the stuff.
Wait, so what's behind you on the ground?
Oh yeah, no, behind me is a whiteboard. Currently, it's filled with stuff that I got for my 40th birthday last year.
Happy birthday!
Yeah, right. And there's my Wormwood Saga roadmap thing.
Oh dang!
Where I basically created little checkbox. Unfortunately, my cable is not long enough to get really close to it. But it's basically, I created little tasks for me. You would find stuff like creating chapter 1 or creating script for chapter 1 or stuff like making a publishing deal or making an app, all these things there. And then I just mapped out year after year what I did that year and branched out this stuff, and this kind of became my roadmap for the project. And yeah, I will have it. It's kind of right at the moment. It's kind of stuck in 2017, so I have to map out all the stuff that's on my plate right now. Yeah, and this is my reduced bookshelf. The bookshelves used to fill the whole wall, but a few months ago it broke down. While I was working, one of the bookshelves just came apart, and and I realized that the two bookshelves were actually too heavy for the room because I have just a wood board thing here, and it's not concrete. It's an old framework house I'm living in, and I could actually see at the wall below this room that there were some cracks in it. So the bookshelves were too heavy, and I replaced them with. I actually weeded out all my books and just kept those that were really, really important for me, and the other went into the attic, into cardboard boxes. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Okay,
And,
last awkward question. Next to that drum, is that like a porta potty thing?
What?
It looks so next to the drum. There's something that looks like you sit on it. Oh wait, no, that's just a okay. It looked kind of like a little porta potty for a second there, that chair. But that's like a cat basket or something.
No, this is a cat basket. That is a cat basket.
Okay.
I totally
was
forgot
like,
something.
man,
I totally forgot one thing. Since last year, I have a second workstation with my old Cintiq as a monitor, but it has a lot of dead pixels. It's just for monitoring the workstation because it's my VR workspace.
What?
Got
What?
the Oculus Rift thing, and I'm toying around with VR painting and VR drawing and VR 3D modeling a lot.
Whoa!
I will
That's
probably
so
do that
cool.
one of our Wednesday studio hangouts, just doodling around in the background a little bit. It's really fun. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
So I have this room is like 3 meters by 4 meters. It's really a small space, but I just try to cram as much creative toys as possible into this small space.
That's very cool.
And there is the big there's the big mirror on one wall that I got from a gym. They sold it because they were closing down the gym. And it just fits right. It just covers the whole wall, which makes the room appear twice as big as it is.
Yeah.
Which is a good illusion for me. Also that way I think that I have a very talented coworker. But unfortunately, he just does the same stuff that I do, so I don't have any benefits from that.
He lives in a mirror dimension.
Yeah.
He does the opposite work of you.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does the mirror check for me. So
if
he
you
always
were ever
tells me, this drawing is not good. You have to flip it.
If your art was ever to touch his art, it would explode.
Yeah, it would be a horrifying thing where the universe like implodes or something like that. Sometimes really cool. I do the game sitting in front of the mirror and trying to move my conscious into the mirror image of myself, you know. Mm-hmm. But it hasn't worked yet. Yeah, right, that's a little space here.
Yeah, it's a great space. Mine seems kind of boring in comparison.
Well, I guess now we all got to show our studios. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
How about we show one? We should show one studio off per live stream.
We'll do that. We can do Jason's next or somebody's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna go now. I think.
Yeah, it was really great.
Huh?
That was really great.
Yeah, I think it was fun. A lot of
man, I enjoyed people out to no end. I tell you,
it was weird, Daniel, when you were showing us your studio. It felt just so surreal to me because I was like, I'm not just watching this. He's showing us his studio because we asked him to, and it's like we're almost like there. It's so bizarre. It's like so cool to just be able to get on and connect with everybody at this level.
It's really interesting. That's
It's
true.
really fun.
It doesn't feel like we are kind of half a globe apart, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, really. Yeah, there's this guy who lives in Japan that I'm going to try to get on the show. It might be like 1 or 2 in the morning for him, but really talented artist. And
Is it Ryan?
He's going to try it. No, I don't want to ever say names of who I'm trying to get on until they
I
actually
get
come
you.
on.
Okay.
Makes sense, yeah.
It's very exciting, though.
Next week there should be some new faces, new familiar faces for everybody that I think will be exciting. So we will see though.
So
Just because the nature of this is like if people can make it, then they show up. At least that's what it seems like. Yeah. So I don't want to promise anything.
Let's close this with a little detail from my studio.
Yeah.
So we've got Master Yoda sitting there, and he is reminding me the little speech bubble above him is saying about the rules thinking you should. And the rules are printed out at his feet, and they say no Facebook on desktop computer. They say booting virtual instruments in the evening and not earlier, because there was a phase when I had my keyboard new, I would just fire up a piano virtual instrument, and whenever I got bored with my work, I would start practicing, and I lost a lot of time with that.
Yeah.
And the next point is get up on your feet ever so often. And the last one is drink. Because I tend to forget to drink water enough. And it's so easy. Just drink enough and you will feel good. Yeah.
Rules to live by.
Huh?
All right, I'm going to sign off. Rules to live by.
Yeah, those are some good points. I need to have something like that on my desk.
You have to have Master Yoda sitting there watching your every step. That puts pressure and motivation on you.
All right, Stephen, we'll let you go.
Yeah, and I will go to bed too. It's midnight is closing in.
Midnight. All right. It's 3:30 here. Perfect. I need to get a Kickstarter update done. I've been like dropping the ball on getting this Kickstarter update. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. All right, guys.
That's a plan.
Bye.
Great talking to you guys.
Everybody.
Next
See
week,
you, Stephen. Yeah, next week.
Yep, see ya.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.